Today I'm going to be talking about the books from the Man Booker 2016 shortlist. This is probably going to contain some spoilers because some of the books I won't be able to explain without actually giving away what happens in the book. So I'm going to start with the first book that I read, which was Hot Milk by Deborah Levy. I didn't understand it. Okay, that's a lie. I did understand it, I just didn't really understand the point of it. I didn't enjoy the book. I came away reading it like, wow, that was a complete waste of my time. And I don't really want to say bad things about authors and stuff because I know it takes a lot to write a book, but this was not a book I enjoyed. The one thing that stood out for me was the characters just seemed so 2D. There was nothing real about the characters. There was nothing that made them human or that made them real, and it was just a bit blah. Yeah, so the whole book really just felt really disjointed. To summarise what the book is about, if I can really remember and summarise it properly, it is about a girl, can't remember her name, and her mum who travelled to, I think it's Spain or Greece. Her mum has like some chronic illness, so she can't walk. That is actually the book. There's also one thing I didn't understand, and for me, I wasn't really sure if it was like, oh, supposed to cast doubts on the character and be like, is she sane or is she not? In the book, her friend gives her a t-shirt. She thinks the t-shirt says beloved, but while she's on holiday in Greece, she realises it says beheaded. I was just like, what is happening here? Like, can the girl not read? Like, I was really confused. So yeah, it just said something like whether the character was trustworthy or not, and I really didn't know what was happening in the book overall. I was just very confused. After I finished the book, I was just like, yeah, this isn't great. I thought the book was poetic in some places, but overall it was just not a book that I enjoyed reading. I didn't come away feeling anything from it. I didn't feel like I learned anything from it, and yeah, it just wasn't a favourite of mine. So I rate all my books on Goodreads, and I gave this a 2 out of 5. The next book I read was Do Not Say We Have Nothing by Madeleine Thien. No, trying to butcher people's names. I actually really enjoyed this book when I first started reading it. I actually continued to enjoy it throughout, but I mean, instantly when I started reading it, I was like, I really like this book, and I think it's because it was just a bit different to the book I'd read before. So I read most of these books back to back. So straight away I was like, okay, this is something completely different. I'm enjoying reading this. Like it was just a completely different story, and I think that's one thing I like about all the books in the shortlist. They are all so different from each other. That was another reason why I wanted to do this, was just to be able to read a variety of books and read books that I wouldn't actually usually pick up on a day-to-day basis. I found the story very interesting overall. The book does this thing where it changes from different time periods. So in the beginning I found that a bit confusing. I was just a bit like, what is going on? But once the book settles, or once you start to know more about the characters, when it goes back into another time, you're more familiar with the story. It has a lot of like a present day history and then like a further history. And I just found personally I was more interested in the present day and one of the stories that was coming out from the present day. But because it kept flipping back to the past, which obviously affects the present day, but I was just a bit like, I am now interested in what happened in the past. But overall, the story connected, and there was a reason why the book did that. Yeah, the story is about the Chinese Revolution. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know loads about it, because I really don't. Wasn't even really aware that it happened. One of the huge themes in this book, though, was music. I love music, but music was a huge theme in this, and the characters played the violin, they played the piano, and music was something that really helped them during that time period where everything was just a bit shit, really, where like there were revolutions and armies were coming in and everything was a bit trash, basically. So music played a huge part, and I really liked that. I've never read a book that had such a huge theme, like an overarching theme. I was like, this is great. And I feel like if you're a huge music lover in that sort of aspect, and you like classical music and things like that, you will sort of enjoy this part, though, how this book sort of weaves that in. It's a really lovely touch. The main things is obviously the Chinese Revolution. I hope I'm saying that it's right, that it's the Chinese Revolution. I read this quite a while back, so I'm a bit like, ooh. But yeah, there was a lot of history thrown in. Obviously it's a fictional book, but it's based on facts and it's based on history. And yeah, so I also managed to learn a lot. It was just very interesting just to see how people fought back, and it's also just things that you see is replicated in so many different countries across the world, even now in present day. But it was just seeing about how people were living their lives, how some people accepted their fate, how some people were just like, no, we want to fight back from this. I mean, this book has a lot of sad things that goes on. It's just one of those things, it's just a bit of an injustice. It's an intense book, but it's a really worth reading. It's a really long book as well. really long. I also, so whilst I mentioned in Hot Milk the characters were 2D, in this the characters really came alive. And I felt so sorry for all the characters. My favourite character was Big Mother Knife. She's one of those people you know in real life. There's someone that copes despite their circumstances, despite everything to come to say. They have a really great attitude. They'll do things, and they're willing to put their life on the line. She's just great, and just some of the things she said made me laugh. So she was definitely my favourite character. But there are so many characters in there that I feel like so many people will be attracted to. Like the one character, Sparrow. I personally didn't really like him that much. I thought he was alright, but I think the reason I didn't like him is because he didn't choose to fight. Like, I feel like in the book he really just gave up and accepted his fate, whereas people around him were more prepared, had more of fire in them, and didn't want to accept things for the way they were. Whereas I feel like he was just like, this is my life, this is what they've designed me to, like, yeah. Overall, I thought the book was fantastically written, and I just loved the way the characters were sort of woven together. Obviously, in the beginning, you don't know how everyone is related. As the book goes on, you find out how they know each other. It's just really good. Like, it was done in a way that's believable and can totally happen. It's not random, it's very believable. I think that Madeleine has an excellent way of writing. The book is easy to follow, it's easy to read, and once you just get a handle on the characters and their time periods, like, the book is so easy to read, and it's a good, interesting read. It teaches you something, but it's also, because it's got that musical element and that sort of poetic writing, it's such a joy to read. It's just lovely to read. Even though it's just tinged with loneliness everywhere, and I completely understand it because of the time period they were in. I would definitely recommend this as a book to read. I don't think it's the kind of book I'd recommend to everyone, because I feel like some people just think this book is boring. But I personally find it very, very interesting. So my rating for this book was a 4 out of 5. I don't know if I was to go back and read it again if I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think because I read it straight after Hot Milk, I was just like, thank God this isn't another Hot Milk. It's a great book, there's no denying that. So the third book that I read from the Man Book of 2016 shortlist was Eileen by, can't pronounce the second name. I'm going to try, because I believe in trying, but I just don't like butchering people's names. Moshfegh. Ottessa Moshfegh. We're just going to dive into the thoughts of the book. Overall, I'm not really sure how I felt about this book. Actually, that's what I wrote down in my notes, but I didn't really like the book. So how this book is set up is about Eileen, who is a very, I wouldn't even say she's a grotesque character, but I mean, she doesn't think much about herself, and the author, she writes about herself in such a way that it's just like, it's so honest and to the point. But yeah, she's a bit grotesque. I don't want to use that word to describe someone, but that's kind of what I think. I don't feel like very much happened in this book, despite the fact that there was a horrible crime committed. The book has a huge build-up to the crime. The crime was bad, obviously, but I just feel like had the part about the crime been longer, it would have been more shocking. I feel like by the time the crime had been committed, I was well over the book. By then I was like, me and this book are done. The book is about a girl named Eileen, and it's actually set in 1964, so it is set back in the day. It's not back in the day, but anyway. And she lives in a small town in America. All of these bits are very relevant because I feel like small towns, generalisation, but small towns, Americans, greatest shit always happen. Everything about Eileen's life just seems dark. Dark is the right word. I remember I was saying before, I wasn't sure what word. Dark is the right word. Her life just seems so dark and miserable. Like, Eileen seems to really hate her life, really. I don't blame her, but hates her town and hates everything there. Her job is not very interesting. She works in like a prison, so I think she's sort of admin there. She doesn't enjoy her job, she doesn't like her colleagues, and she's a bit of a viral one. She visualises her colleagues having sex, like in different sex acts. It's very random. Like, and she just seems to be very grotesque. And overall, like, even in the book, she talks about her hygiene. Like, this girl don't shower for like 4 days. I don't understand why. And she doesn't wear clothes that flatter her. She prefers to just like hide her body. Like, generally, homegirl is a bit miserable, so I don't know what's going on there. There was a lot of talk about just like her. I don't want to give too much away about the story, but she lives with her dad. Her dad's an alcoholic. He's rude. And it's just her and her dad, her rude dad, who just treats her like crap. So she really hasn't got much going for her. She doesn't have any friends either. So in comes the introduction of a new co-worker who befriends Eileen, who is completely different to Eileen. So obviously Eileen takes a complete shining to her, and that's basically where the story goes, and a crime is committed with said new friend. I felt like the introduction of her new friend was just a bit too rushed. Like, I'm pretty sure the story spans to over about 4 days, or let's say maximum a week. I could be completely lying. If I am, I will correct it along the bottom. But the story does not span over a long time, yet she makes great friends with this girl. It's just a bit like, that doesn't happen. Why should that even happen? So I just felt like it wasn't that believable. It wasn't that believable that she would meet someone and then be duped so easily over a couple of months. Yes, over a couple of years, definitely, but in less than a week, I'm not really too sure about that. Overall, I don't really know what to say about this book, because for me, it wasn't a thing. I was just like, okay, this book is a bit boring. I actually saw someone reading it on the train after I read it, and I just wanted to be like, save yourself the trouble. But, you know, people enjoy different things. Yeah, overall, both the characters, so the woman she befriends, her name is Rebecca, and then Eileen, they're both very odd characters. If you read the book, you'll understand what I mean, and I just... Not even that I don't understand how two people like that can exist, because the book is not true. There was nothing about them that I could relate to or take any interest in that I felt okay. This is cool. They were just both odd to me, both uninteresting, both weird. Yeah, and I'm not sure which one of them that I found most odd. The story just wasn't for me, to be honest. The thing is, I can understand why this book is good. If that doesn't sound too weird, I can kind of understand why. Like, it's good. It's got that sort of dark setting. It's not really a thriller, but it sort of creeps in on you a little bit. I think Eileen's sort of descriptions about herself are very, I would like to say accurate, but she's not a real person, but she seems to have a lot of self-awareness. Like, she's gross, but she knows she's gross. Not even gross, like she puts her nose all the time or something like that, but she just seems to have quite aware of the fact that, you know, she dresses a certain way because she doesn't want this, or because she is not trying to attract anyone to her, and that, you know, she doesn't wash, which she knows makes her smell, but she doesn't really fucking care. Like, I like that about her, but, you know, it's a bit weird. Anyway, to conclude, I gave that book a 3 out of 5 on Goodreads. I think now, if I was to go back and read that, I would probably give it a 2 out of 5. It's just making note that I'm filming this video like 4 months after I've read all these books. Yeah, it's taking me that long.